3 of the past 4 seasons, Creighton's made a second weekend or further. 2 years ago, Darion Trammell makes the free throw to send San Diego State to the Final Four. Last year, Dalton Connect in Tennessee is just too much to overcome. Christian here with Nick. Special guest today is Chris Thedinga, who covers Creighton for Road to the Garden. And Creighton's obviously in a good place as a program. You got Kalkbrenner back, Ashworth's here, and you bring in some interesting guys. So tell us, Chris, is this a season where Creighton can take another step forward, win a Big East title, and go to the Final Four?
Yeah, Christian, I thought we were done. I thought I was done having to relive the Trammell moment of the Elite Eight, but nonetheless, here we are. I'm not sure that this team has the ceiling that the last couple of Creighton teams did. They had an interesting roster building approach in the offseason. They fill the holes that they needed from last year, where they struggled sort of in on the perimeter as far as creation off the ball. And so they get some guys, Pop Isaacs and Jemiah Neal, that can really create really well. But you're replacing Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman. That's not an easy task, right? I don't know if you guys have seen Moneyball, but it's like they're trying to replace Johnny Damon and Jason Isringhausen, and I'm not sure that you can quite do that. So I don't know. I don't think the ceiling is quite as high for this Jays group.
Yeah, I actually, Chris is a little different than me on Pop Isaacs, but I like when you get like a I trust McDermott. Like, I think like you throw a player like Pop Isaacs in there, like he is kind of a known. His usage just was high at Texas Tech, and he's known of a bit of a chucker per se. But yeah, how will that offense look this year with him and Jemiah Neal coming in? Both guys who can create. They don't necessarily need to run offensive sets. They're just guys who you can give the ball to and kind of clear out space and go.
Yeah, definitely. Creighton missed that last year badly. Pop Isaacs, like you said, high volume guy in Grant McCaslin's system. But I think in Greg McDermott's system, it should lead to a little bit more efficiency with Ashworth in the backcourt as well. There's not going to be quite as much pressure on him to handle the ball at all times. It seemed like at times at Texas Tech. Jemiah Neal was an interesting sign to me. He's explosive and he's a good athlete, but I don't know. At Arizona State, I don't think he was a super effective guy either. They brought over Fedor Zugic overseas here recently, and I think that's going to prove pretty vital to the wing depth, and I think he may end up being the starter in that role down the line here too.
Yeah, let's talk about this guy. I know he's been playing pro ball for a few years now. He's 20, and he's been playing pro ball since I was in high school. I'm 24 years old. So, like, this guy, I'm assuming that this is like a legit dude who's going to come in and like be really good, right? Like, it's super under the radar because of how late it came in and, just the way European guys are ranked. It's not like he's like a 5-star per se or anything like that. But, like, what is the buzz you've been hearing about Zugic? Is he going to come in and be instantly like one of the best players in the Big East, or am I going too far with that?
I think it might be a little bit too far. On his German team, he only averaged 11 points per game, which he is playing older competition. But yeah, the kid will be 21 by the time the season starts. He turns the ball over a little bit too much. He had a 15% turnover rate comparatively to a 10% assist rate. So he needs to work on a few things. In the league in Germany that he was playing, just for reference, the two highest scorers in that league are Tommy Kuzi, who played at St. Mary's, and Zach Copeland from, I think, Illinois State. Okay. Neither of those guys were, super dominant in college ball. They were both good players, but I do think this will be a leg up in competition. With that being said, he's got a really nice stroke, and I think once he develops to the American game, I really do think he can be a power 5 starter.
So Zugic is he's a main X factor. Let's talk about Jason Green in year 2, because he had some really good moments as a freshman. And he's a guy I have circled as a sophomore breakout. Of course, the team's stacked, so, you won't have like a true breakout. And another guy, I actually saw some highlights on Twitter of Larry Johnson, just super athletic guard, freshman, definitely under the radar from that standpoint. So let's talk about some of those guys and X factors.
Yeah, Jason Green's an interesting one. I'm not entirely sure, again, here this year. I'm not sure what his role will be on this team with Mason Miller back. They got Jackson McAndrew, another freshman that is pretty highly touted. So I'm not really sure what it holds for Green. They have a lot of options at that position, and he's too small to play the 5, not quite enough quite good enough a shooter to play the 3. But when he gets minutes, he's really effective. So we'll see what Greg does with that position as a whole. Yeah, Larry Johnson, man, that guy is a missile. He's super athletic. His tapes on YouTube and stuff are pretty crazy. He has some sweet dunks. One of the better freshman recruits Creighton has ever had. In fact, like he's one of the best 4 ever. All 4 of them, their top 4 recruits have all came in the last 5 years. So that is a testament to the program. But Larry Johnson and Jackson McAndrew are definitely the freshmen to watch. And I think they could carve out significant time off the bench.
Tell us more about McAndrew. I had another question, but I'm seeing that he's ranked even higher than Larry Johnson. Like, is he a guy that you think has potential of cracking the starting lineup? Because that's another thing that. So you started. I'm taking this question, but you'll see where I'm going with it. You made the Moneyball reference of how they're trying to fill the pieces, and like, you know how much I love Baylor Shireman and how I was saying that this dude was a first-round pick from the beginning of the season, and his versatility on both ends. You know, as a stretch 4 who could guard so many positions, who could rebound the shit out of the ball, and everything he did offensively. Like, I don't think Mason Miller can be that guy at the 4. So, like, is it a small ball where like a Zugic or a Jermiah Neal is playing 4? Is Miller like I don't think Isaac Trout's gonna just become way more than he was last year. So like McAndrew at 6'9", and is he a guy that can take some of those minutes next to Kalkbrenner in the front court?
I think so. So Jackson McAndrew is actually a guy. He's from where I'm up in Minneapolis. He's from my area. So I've seen him in high school a couple times. He's a little bit small to me for Big East play as far as just like toughness and physicality. He'll grow up a little bit. I think he'll be a great player down the line. But as far as freshman output, I'm not entirely sure he's ready for that level of competition. But he's got a nice stroke, and he will. I think the plan would be obviously the plan. Baylor Shireman was a first-round draft pick, but I think the plan would be for him to have that sort of role in years coming. Yeah.
And we haven't really spoken about him because we take him for granted at this point, but Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to be, again, the biggest defensive player of the year, most likely. He completely dictates the style of this team because of the drop coverage they're able to play, the fact that they don't need to foul, that they can run people off the three-point line. That all we presume will stay the same. Is there anything different to expect about Kalkbrenner's game? Do you think he'll let that 3-ball fly a little bit more this year? And he seems like such a keep to himself kind of guy. Is he the leader of this team? Is he just a lead by example kind of guy? Who do you think is the leader of this team?
I think Stephen Ashworth is probably the leader in the locker room, but Ryan Kalkbrenner is just a steady force, man. He's going to be a 4-time, presumably, assuming he wins it this year, he'd be a 4-time defensive player of the year in the Big East. I don't think, guys, that will ever happen again. Like, you'd need a certain set of circumstances to ever see that again. And so I hope people recognize that and don't take it for granted. Because like you said, Creighton's entire defensive scheme is just built around him. Without him, they are a completely different defensive team. And offensively, man, I mean, shoot, yeah, if he can develop the 3-ball a little bit more, just shoot it. Dude, just get it up to 31, 32%. Just show it and be sort of effective with it. Then, yeah, that would change Creighton's offense quite a bit as well.
You got anything else, Chris?
Yeah, another thing. Why does McDermott hate Fred King? Like, why can't Fred King get in there for like 5 to 7 minutes? Like, he was fine. That time Kalkbrenner missed those games. And it's like, there were moments this year where I'm like, is he going to just go, like, does he just think he's going to be awful when he comes in? That was something, I don't know if it's a psychological thing that I'm thinking too deeply into, but like, man, Trout would go in there and like, just look really nervous. Like, there were times at the beginning of the year where he was playing well, but it's like, all you need to do, buddy, is like hit the wide open 3 and rebound, and you'll be a great asset to this team. And then like, even seeing Jason Green, like the fact that it was so long until we saw something from him, like, do you think McDermott will use a little bit more depth this year? Or do you think he just rides and dies with his guys as much as he can, like just run him into the ground?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I asked McDermott a similar question in a press conference last year, and he essentially just said like, well, these are my 5 best players, so why wouldn't I play my 5 best players? I was like, yeah, I mean, okay, I get it. But I agree with you. I wish he used the bench a little bit more. As far as Fred King, I'm going to push back a little bit. I don't think, I mean, if you look at his like analytic numbers, let's say on Evan Maya, he is not a super efficient guy. the last 2 years. In fact, he's a negative defensive BPR rating on Evan Maya. Like he's kind of a sieve down there, just because they do run the same drop coverage as they do with Kalkbrenner in, and he's just not really built for that. I think if they changed their system a little bit defensively when he was in the game, he'd be a little bit better. But as it stands now, I don't think Fred King's really a serviceable option down low.
It's an interesting thing about how he, to just keep everyone on the same page, he kind of is supposed to play the same way Kalkbrenner does. But something about UConn per se that I think made them so dominant these past few years is when Sonogo or Samson Johnson's in, they're hard hedging and pushing you out. And then Klingon comes in and you have to see a different look. And like, I feel like Greg McDermott's a good enough coach for that to potentially be something, but maybe I'm giving him too much credit. But at the same time, it's like, this dude's back for another year. Like, so why is he coming if they don't believe in him or don't have plans to use him is kind of something I'm thinking. Like, I assume, unless he just loves Omaha, like he's staying because he thinks there's a role for him.
Well, he entered the portal. I do want to. Yeah, he came back. He just didn't get a lot of interest out there, I don't think.
Yeah,
we'll see.
What about, is Sterling Knox a thing?
Sterling Knox is a thing. I don't think he will be super useful here this year. Maybe in the future. TBD.
Okay. And was I being too hard on Mason Miller? Do you think he can be the 4-man? Because there were probably times where it was him and Farabello and Shireman was out, but barely. But like, can he be a 4 in this league?
I think so. He would guard the 4 a decent amount when there was a really athletic 3 that Shireman would cover. And he's a 45% 3-point shooter. I mean, this is a guy that is pretty sharp from beyond the range. And so being able to do that at the 4 is super effective. And Jemiah Neal is big enough where he can kind of shoulder some of the load at the 4 spot as well, to me, defensively. So yeah, I think Mason Miller will be just fine. Unfortunately, his ceiling, I don't think, is super high, right? He's a good shooter that plays okay defense, not really a creator, anything like that.
Where do you see Creighton ending up in the Big East this season, and what is their ceiling overall for the NCAA tournament?
Man, that's a good question. As Creighton has sort of progressed to that tier 1 of college hoops, I feel like they've been in that tier 2 to 3 in the last 25 years. Just recently, to sort of climb that ladder, so the expectations are a little bit higher. But I would view success as a top 20-ish team in the country. If they have a 2-0 next to their name at the end of the year, I think I'd be happy. And with that, I think that puts them probably 3rd, maybe 4th in the Big East, depending on how you view Xavier. But I think Creighton will compete for the top 3 in the Big East.
Well, I've got my Creighton shirt on. I've been a fan the past few years. I've loved the way they've played. The thing that Nick referenced this earlier, the thing that I struggle with this team, just looking at the roster, is with Pop Isaacs. I assume, not that he is apples for apples Trey Alexander, but he's going to have the ball a lot, because we saw Ashworth have moments where he was awesome and moments where he really struggled. And I know he got better as the season went along, but there were still moments where it's like, if he isn't connecting from deep, that he was really frustrating, because it was like Baylor and Trey need help, right? And Pop Isaacs does have the kind of quickness and juice that Trey had. And Nick referred to him kind of a choker. He's a chaos. He's just a little bit chaotic sometimes, but there were moments in Big 12 play where he was very, very good. It's interesting seeing a team like Creighton that's so three-point is such a big part of what they do offensively. And you bring in the 2 transfers you bring in are guys who shot sub 30%. So it's interesting because this is still a team that's going to have a lot of 3-point volume. You've got Zugic, Miller, Ashworth. But I'm interested to see how that Isaacs-Ashworth backcourt fits, because if Ashworth is more comfortable playing a little bit off the ball more, is it going to be a little bit too much Pop Isaacs for my liking? And at the same time, Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think he averaged 17 a game last year. I think he should get the ball more offensively. Like, there are some games, maybe it's like Marquette, it seems to happen with, where it's like they kind of struggle to get him the ball, but man, he is so good. The way he can contort his body and get different angles just with his giant lanky arms, like, he's borderline unstoppable certain games in the post. So I'm interested to see how it comes together. But Greg McDermott's track record with the talent on this roster, with what you're getting on the defensive end with Kalkbrenner anchoring it, it's going to be a good team. How good, we'll see. But I think the guard play is going to define it.
100%. Yeah. If I could put my, stock in it. If Pop Isaacs has a efficient year where he's controlling the pace of the game and he's shooting it well at a high clip, then Creighton's ceiling goes astronomically higher than it would otherwise.
Cool, man. Well, Chris, that's the guy for Creighton stuff. He's my guy. I appreciated getting to know you over the I guess it was just last season. But no, thanks for joining us, Chris, and good luck to you and your Blue Jays this year.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys.